Welcome to codezing.org. Today's project is level 2 and it is the place value test. So you can find that at codezing.org/place_value. So this one is found here, codezing.org, level 2 code, and for now it's the last one in level 2. So it's kind of a culmination of lots of stuff that we've learned so far, a while loop, if, statements, printing stuff out to the screen, getting input from the user, testing whether values are true or not. So lots of stuff. Even though the game is kind of itself, even my kids were like, is that really we need a place value test? It's kind of a cool example with lots of code intricacies. So even if the game isn't super fantastic, the code behind it does a lot of different stuff. So what is the place value? And we can make a guess that it's 100,000. Yay. And that is going to be tens. Yay. And it's keeping track of how many I got correct. I'm going to guess millions. Nope. Not millions. Alright. And I forget how many it gives you. Let's just click through here. Not so worried about my score. Confident in my place value knowledge. Right, 4 out of 10. Ouch, not sure you know place value. Better ask an adult for help. I should get an adult to help me with that. Cool. Alright, let's find the code down below, and you can see this one's a little longer just because it has, it's keeping track of how many you got right. It's making new random questions. It's getting input from the user. It's making sure the user isn't putting in crazy responses. So our code is starting to get a little long. So we're going to breeze through this one. If you paste it into Spider, like we've been doing on all the other projects, and let's dig in. So we're importing random again because we're going to make a random choice for each question, right? It's going to set a random place value. We have a dictionary here that we've seen several times before. So we have a key and a value, right? They're separated by a colon. You can tell it's a dictionary because of the curly braces. So I have a dictionary with a key and a value, and each key and value pair is separated by a comma. And we can stack these up. Python doesn't mind if we format it like this. And sometimes that's nice because you can see it all. So we have the keys are 1 through 7, and the values are the place value in words. The next is setting some initial variables, just so they're instantiated, meaning they exist in the memory, so we can add to them or change them in the future, but we need to have them in the game's memory when we start. So turns equals 0, score equals 0, and we're just getting those instantiated before we begin this looping function. So turns and score will exist in the memory, and then now we're going to do a while loop. And if you remember, a while loop will continue to loop through the code below it while the statement is true. So while turns is less than 10, it's going to keep playing the game. We can see we set turns to 0, so we're off to a good start. That should loop through, and I believe later on we will see that turns, every time the turn ends, that it is going to add 1 to the turns. So turns, every time it runs through the code, it will make turns increase by 1. So plus equals 1 is the same thing as turns equals turns plus 1. They just gave you a simple way to write this code. So instead of having to do turns twice, it's just plus equals 1. So it's going to iterate up 1 every time the game loop runs through. And once it gets to 10, obviously, turns will be no longer less than 10. It'll be equal to 10, and the while loop will shut off. So it's going to loop for 10 turns and quit. What do we got next? It's going to generate the random number that we're going to be guessing the place value for. So it's this is part of our random library that we imported. So from the random library, pick the random int method and pick a value that is between 1 million and 9,999,999. So that way, it always has a millions place and below. So once we've picked our random number, we want to convert that, or at least create a version of it that's just the string. That's not the number. So if you remember, strings have the quotation marks around them, and Python interprets them differently. You can do math on an integer or a float, but you cannot do math on a string. But sometimes strings are easier to print out to the console. So it looks like I made a string version of number. And we've also made a list version. So if we do print number is, if you remember, so we can use the print function here to get some insights into what is going on. Number list. So this is going to be number string and number list. Okay, so I put those in, and we'll just run it so we can see what are all these variables here. Indented block error. Probably forgot to close something off. Remember, where am I off? Line 44. Print string equals print string plus a comma. Oh, there. Wants an indent there. Yep. Okay. Let's print. Okay, and we can see let's just look at this part that I just added. So number is, so I picked a random number. Number string is, and that doesn't look any different, but it is the string version of this int. And then the list, this piece, list of the number string actually breaks that into all of its pieces. So it turns each part of the string into a separate item in a Python list. Sorry, so that's what that first piece does. It draws the random number as an int, it creates it into a string version, and then breaks it into a list so we get all of the little pieces separate. I'm just gonna exit out of that so we can continue on. So I don't want to play the game right now. I just wanted to show you what those few lines of code were up to. Alright, and so now what are we doing? Selection random int again. So we're going to pick another random int, and it's going to start at 0, and it's going to do the length of the number list minus 1. So length of the number list is going to be the size of this item. And if we look back at that list we printed out, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 items. So from 0 to 7, actually 6, pick a random int. And that is going to determine which one of these we're going to try to guess. Which one is going to be displayed as the one we're asking people to guess. And the selection name is then going to look that up in this dictionary that we created earlier. So it is going to say that the selection, so like in this one, the selection is the last item, and it's going to pick the place value for that, which would have been 1s. And why don't we put this up? So print selection. This is the selection. And print the selection name. Whoops, misspellings, but that's fine. Selection name. So we can't misspell the variables. If you do misspellings in the string, that it'll print funny. But we're just trying to take a peek here, so it doesn't matter. Alright, this is the selection, number 3. So it picked a random number up here. The random selection is 3. And we can see up here, it's looking up the key is 3, and so the value is 10,000. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the key plus 1 is what it's selecting. So 3 plus 1 is 4, so 1,000. We can kill that. We can run it again. You can see if it picks a different one. Selection is 3, and the place is thousands again. It made the same random choice. Selection is 3, and the selection name is 1,000. Why is it picking the same one every time? It definitely should not. There we go. Okay. Selection is 5, and the place value is tens. So 5 plus 1 is 6, so it's looking up tens. So it's looking at the place value dictionary and picking the selection, which was 5 plus 1, so 6. So it's picking that key and giving you the value back. Oop, deleted too much there. Okay. Delete and delete. Alright, so we saw it's drawing a number, turning it into a string, creating a list, and then making a selection and looking up the name for that selection. Now it is going to create a string to display. So this guy. So this guy, it looks like it's just kind of a number where there were blanks put in, but this was actually a little more complex than you would think to try to build, because what you're really going to do is loop through each piece and then determine whether you need to put a comma in or determine whether it needs to be an underscore. And then when you actually have the value that you're trying to guess, it needs to put in that value. So that's creating this loop of code is creating this piece of printout. And kind of a convoluted, long way. There's probably a better way. If somebody comes up with a better way, feel free to let me know what it is. But for now, it's creating an empty string, and it's setting comma count to 0. Comma count is just going to keep track of, where are we at in the creation, and put in a comma when the comma count equals a certain place. So for value in the range 0 to the length of the number list. So it's going to go through all of the items in the number list, and if the value equals selection, so it's going to loop through the number list, and if the value equals selection, which would be occurring here, then it wants to print the string, a space, and then the number list value. So this is going to print out this section. Going to add that to the string. If comma count is equal to 0 or 3, then put in a comma. So that's inserting the commas. And if not, if we're not putting in a comma and we're not putting in the actual number, then put in an underscore, which is this piece. And then increase comma count by 1. So it's going to loop through. So let's do some prints because it's a little convoluted. Okay, value. So let's print this is value. So that's the value, and let's see, print. Actually, I want to see up here. Print test value equals selection. Okay, so that's the next thing it's going to do, is this if statement, if the value is equal to selection. So let's print out that either true or false is what we'll get back. If it is true, let's do print string. So if it's true, we'll watch it add that number, and then the same thing with these comma counts. Where's it going? There, okay. So let's print these out so we can watch it and build this print string. That's what I'm hoping to show. Bear with me here. Alright, print string, and then let's at the end print out what this comma count is so we can watch it iterate. Alright, so we've added quite a few print statements in there, but hopefully this will give us some clue as to how this is working. Okay, this is the else statement, so we know where that's occurring. And we'll add that down here too, so we know that that's down there. Let's give it a go. What do we got? Oh, I gotta kill it from last time. There we go. Okay, run it. Print sting. Where did I accidentally put print sting? Line 41. String. Did I do that everywhere? String. What's happened? You mistype it once and then copy and paste it in, you're going to get a bunch of them. All right, run, and here we go. Now it's building that piece. So this is value 0. So we're starting at 0, which is the first value in our range. And the test value equals selection is false. So the first value that we have, it does not equal the selection, which, we're going to do this. Let's print the number and print the selection. So we can see what we're talking about. Okay, so this is the number that is going to be in our game, and the selection is 5, so this value. So it's looking at the first value is 0, the 0 place, and does value equal selection? It does not. So it's looking at the 9, and does that equal the selection? It does not. That's false. So since it's false, it's going to skip this, right, because this returned false, so it's not going to do that if statement because the value does not equal selection. And it's going to come down here to the else, right? It says this is the else statement, which is great. This is the else statement, and it's printing the string. So we started out with a blank print string. So this is the blank print string, and then this bit of code added this first underscore, right? So it added the first underscore because our value 5 is not 9. So it's starting to build up this eventual string, right? This is ultimately what it's going to build, and we're kind of watching it happen. So so it put in the underscore, and now it's going to go down to here. If comma count equals 0 or if comma count equals 3, then add in a comma. And right now, comma count is 0 because it hasn't iterated. It starts at 0. So it puts in the underscore. Then the comma count does equal 0, so it's going to put in a comma as well. And that's where we end up with the underscore and the comma. And then the comma count has increased to 1. So plus equals 1. We were at 0. We've iterated up to 1. And the comma count is now 1. So we've reached the end of our for loop, so we're going to circle back up to the beginning and start again. And the value is 1. Does the test value equal selection? It does not. And so since it's not equal, it skips that chunk of string, code. It skips this piece of code, right? Because this tested as false, and it runs the else again. It puts in the underscore like we expected. And since the comma count was not equal to 0 or 3, right, comma count was equal to 1, it doesn't do this piece either. And it comes down here to comma count plus equals 1, and makes comma count equal to 2 now. So comma count is counting up as we move through our for loop. And we've reached the end, so it's going to jump back to the top of the for loop again and iterate through. It's going to do the test is false again, keeps building the string, increasing the comma count, and keeps iterating through the for loop. It does another test. It equals false. It adds another underscore and a comma this time because our comma count is equal to 3. So down here we're testing if comma count is equal to 0 or if it's equal to 3. Now it's equal to 3, so that'll test true, and it'll put a comma in as well. When it finally finds the value that does equal the selection, which is down here, so this value is 5, the test value does equal the selection, so we finally hit where this is true. Now it's going to add the actual number to our display. So before, since it hadn't found the right value, it was just adding underscores and commas. It did find the right value, so it looks up what is that value. So number list underscore value. It finds the correct value and adds it to the string, and then it continues iterating until it has created the entire guess place value string. So a lot of looping. Use print statements to try to follow it through. Have it do whatever additional code you need to add in there to get a good feel for what's happening on each loop and what each piece of the code is doing. If you're not sure what is number list, value, then print that out and see what it does. If you're not sure what comma count is, print it out and see what comma count is at each iteration. Once we get the guess piece done, we're going to print that out. So this is where it prints guess place value. It prints that string that all this looping built up. So it prints out the print string, and then it wants to show you what your choices are for guessing. And it's simple enough to do that. It just prints out this dictionary that we created. So the dictionary up here is also going to be the choices that you have. I'm just going to do that with an easy for loop where it's going to print the key. Item is the key, and place value dict item is going to be the value for the key. So when you loop through a dictionary, when you do a for loop through a dictionary, it's going to loop through the keys, and to get the value for any key, you put the name of the dictionary, and then in brackets, in square brackets, you put the key, and it'll give you the value. So that's the key, space, and then the value, which is what prints out. Key, space, value, key, space, value. The next line of code is getting the input from the user. So we've seen this a bunch. Guess, place value, enter choice number is what it prints to the console, and whatever the user puts in there, it's going to convert that to an integer and assign that to the variable guess. Now it's going to do the checking to see whether you got the right guess. So if selection name equals place value dict guess, then you're right. Place value is, and it's going to put the variable within the brackets, and your score is going to iterate up one. If it's not correct, then it's going to print that's not right and show you what you guessed, and then tell you what the correct answer was, and then increase your turns plus 1. Once you've done 10 turns, it's going to print out the results that your game's over and you scored your score out of the number of turns, which is going to be 10. If it doesn't equal 10, then it's going to give you an update of your score and go to the next question. So if turns equals 10, then the game's over and it's going to give you your final score. If it's not equal to 10, if it's lower than 10, it's going to give you an update of where you're at in the game. So let's run through one. Let's kill this and start over. We mess up here. Line 41, comma count needs if comma. Oh, I must have deleted something. Well, like I tell you, if that happens, let's just let's recopy and paste this in. Let's go back to a version that works. All right, there. I think I accidentally deleted. Yeah, I accidentally deleted that line out. Which incidentally needs to be indented. Alright. Line number 9. Oh. Alright. Sorry. Okay, guess the place value. So this obviously is in the 10,000s place, so we're going to enter 3. And lo and behold, you're right. The place value is 10,000. Your score is 1 of 1, and then it goes to the next question. Okay? Every time it's going to replace, actually pick the exact same one, which is very unusual. So what place value is that? Is going to be 10,000s again. We got that right. Now it's going to do another one. It puts the 1 in. That's 100,000s. Cool. And so on until we get to the end. Let's just get to the end and see what it prints out at the end. So once you've taken 10 turns, it is going to tell you the correct answer was 100. So each time you get it right or wrong, once you make a wrong guess, it'll tell you that you weren't right, what you guessed, what it actually was. And then at the end of the 10 turns, it does the last chunk here, your game over, and your final score. So a little more complex than we've done in the past. You know, take your time, watch the video a couple times, think through what each of the steps is doing, put in lots of print statements so you can watch it in action and see what's happening at every step. Once you feel comfortable with it, feel free to tweak what's printing out or tweak the way the game works. If you want to do bigger numbers, think of how you can maybe expand it to do up to, 1 billion. How would you increase it, or maybe you want to decrease it, or make easy and hard levels for people to choose from. So lots of ways to change the game and manipulate it, but I think I've covered a ton of ground in this one, lots of different items. But feel free to send me any comments below the video or email them to info@codezine.org. But take your time. If you need, go back to the earlier videos and watch through some of the other concepts. If any of this seemed confusing, or you can always search. There's lots of tutorials. Go to Google and search Python for loop or Python while loop. Or if you see a method that you're not familiar with, search Python random.randint, and it'll guide you pretty well to documentation that can explain it. So have fun. If it's a struggle for you, don't worry. Keep plugging along. Keep trying new things, and it'll start to click for you. As the more examples you work through, the better you'll get at it. So have a lot of fun.